I'll make sure live and we're ready to go.
We're good?
Yep.
All right.
Everybody ready? Okay, it is 7 o'clock. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is the Monday, May 17th, 2021 regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. Before we start, I'd like to ask everybody to please silence your phones that are in the audience and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay. Pam, could you please take roll?
Absolutely. President McFarland?
Here.
Vice President Roush?
Here.
Secretary Singer? Here. Treasurer Lauterbach?
Here.
Member Baker? Here. Member Blasey?
Here.
Member Hatfield?
Here.
All accounted for.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll start off with our consent agenda. Item 2.1 is approval of the minutes from April 19, 2021 regular meeting. Item 2.2 is the approval of the minutes from the April 19, 2021 budget workshop. 2.3 includes a list of employees who have announced their resignation. Item 2.4 is approval for the payment of the school system's bills for the month of March 2021 in the amount of $6,860,819. And item 2.5 is approval of a legal bill in the amount of $212. We'll take a motion, please.
I move approval of the consent agenda, items 2.1 through 2.5.
Support.
That was motion by John
Lauterbach.
I'm sorry. And support by Phil. Any further discussion regarding the items on the consent agenda?
I had a comment, Scott.
Yes.
Last month, as we all know, we had 13 members come up and speak, and they're listed in here. But we don't recap anything. Is that what our common practice is we don't list anything about if they make comments, we don't put those into our minutes?
Don't even need to list their name.
Okay.
So it could be just that the board took public comment is all that needs to be there, so.
And
Okay.
everything's videotaped too, so we can always go back to the videotape.
Right. So I just wondered if in the meeting minutes that we had these 13 people speak, it just kind of lists them and kind of like an hour and a half didn't happen, but it's very short and listing in here, so. Okay. The other question I had is in our bills to be paid, and we have some detail, and it was our first invoice from our energy services project. And I was just curious, one, did we agree to the 10% down that they issued us on March 12th? Because they don't show anything on their schedule of values. It's just a plain 10% startup when they haven't done much yet. Did we agree to that when we hired them? So that we'd be financing them through this?
I'd have to go back and review the contract that we worked back and forth with our legal. I don't know if Brian recalls or not.
Yeah, I do, Excuse me. I do, Mr. Sherrill. There was a 10% down clause in the contract, and that's what that first invoice was.
Okay. And was there anything that prolonged getting an agreement with them? Because I see from our approval to getting a contract, as they list a contract date on here, is over 2 months. Was there anything that we had to hammer out with them to get to an agreeable, something that was different than their proposal?
Lots. That's
Lots?
pretty standard. So
Okay.
we go through fine tooth comb through the contract with our legal firm Truin, and you'll see that matching bill where they did do that. And so there was some give and take back and forth before we went into agreement.
Okay. Is there any highlight item that they didn't like 14 years of negative cash flow, or is it more of a detail thing?
It's details. It's crossing the I. Our legal firm is very, very detailed. There was a lot of small, it was verbiage, words, correction. They use a standard contract. It was something that our firm wanted changes in legally to protect us.
Okay.
Pretty standard.
All right, just wanted to get a couple questions answered.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. How to fix this feedback here. Okay, item 3, we are Board of Education matters presentations to the board. 3.1 is an IB PYP update.
We have Jen Service, who will kick it off for us. Scott, did you take a vote on it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
All in
Yes.
favor?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't remember. I didn't
I
want
wrote
to
it
Second
jump.
guess myself.
Yeah, you did.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you so much for having us tonight. My name is Jen Service. I'm the Elementary Curriculum and Instructional Specialist here at MPS, and I am joined this evening by this fantastic team. We are here to share a snapshot of our PYP journey and our evaluation visits. My team members include PYP Coordinator Whitney Jacobs, Principal Margaret Doan, Chestnut Hill classroom teachers Christina Tignanelli and Cassie Kramer, and 5th grade students from Plymouth Elementary. We will share with you tonight from the field our work leading up to the virtual evaluation visit, the virtual visit itself, and building our future for MPS. To date, 3 of our elementary buildings have completed their IB PYP evaluation visit: Chestnut Hill, Plymouth, and Adams. Woodcrest has their visit at the end of this week, and in the fall of 2021, Central Park and Siebert will take part in their visits. As you know, the IB Learner Profile is the heart of what we do and who we are here at MPS. When I think of our PYP journey and the evaluation process, a few of the Learner Profile attributes stick out to me. First, knowledgeable. I was part of the first team of teachers and administrators exploring the program in 2012. Our team attended a Category 1 training in Cincinnati, Ohio. I remembered leaving the training with very mixed emotions, thinking, wow, this is really great stuff. But where do we even begin? There is so much new learning that needs to take place. How will we ever get this up and running in our district? This evaluation process has brought to light just how far we have come. Our knowledge about inquiry-based learning, transdisciplinary learning, student agency, and classroom community, just to name a few, have grown tremendously. Next, being reflective. A great part of any evaluation cycle is reflection. We have had the opportunity to reflect on how far we have come. I feel oftentimes we get stuck in the negative space of all of the things that we're not doing, that we forget to celebrate all of the successes along the way. We have great things happening in our elementary schools here at MPS, and we will share some of those with you tonight. Taking time to reflect has been a huge part of this process. Next, open-minded. We know that we have areas to grow in. We need to be open to feedback. After all, true, constructive feedback will help us grow and make change. We will use the feedback to feed forward. And finally, being thinkers. Over the course of the last few years, we have learned what works well, and we also know that there are areas that we can improve upon. We will continue to be thinkers and problem solvers and redesign some of the work we are doing to continue to grow in our practice. Growing with the program, here is a quick snapshot of our district implementation of the program, where we started and where we are today. Between the years of 2013 and 2015, all of our elementary buildings engaged in the work of the candidacy phase of the program. Between the years of 15 to 17, all 6 of our elementary buildings became authorized IB PYP World Schools. During the years of 2017 to 2019, we continued implementation of the program in all 6 of our elementary buildings. And beginning this school year in 2020 and running through 2022, we will complete our first evaluation cycle. Next up, I would like to introduce you to Whitney Jacobs. Whitney currently serves as PYP coordinator at Central Park, Chestnut Hill, Plymouth, and the Pre-Primary Center.
just like to say thank you again for having us tonight. As Jen said, I'm Whitney Jacobs, PYP coordinator for Chestnut Hill, Central Park, Plymouth, and the pre-primary. As of today, we have 3 of our 4 Phase 1 elementary schools having just completed their first IB PYP evaluation cycle, while the last one will have theirs this week. Central Park and Siebert, as Jen again mentioned, will have their visits this coming fall. As a visual learner myself, I thought it might be helpful to provide a graphic representation of the evaluation cycle to provide some context surrounding our presentation and sharing tonight. As I started piecing together the events of the past year and a half into a timeline, I quickly realized that the cycle to which the school and the stakeholders undergo as an evaluation is similar to the PYP action cycle, which you'll see up in the corner, a foundational element of the PYP. Both cycles, a continuum, always evolving and changing. Our reflection came in the form of the self-study, which is a comprehensive reflective exercise that took place over about a year's time. 4 of our elementaries embarked on their self-study journey beginning last year. And while we were abruptly halted as we navigated the early stages of the pandemic, we picked up this fall. The self-study had multiple components, including a lengthy questionnaire that dove into the standards and practices outlined by the IB and required the schools to collect input and insight from multiple perspectives, including students, teachers, parents, as well as building and district administration. Through the use of surveys, grade level collaboratives, interviews, and leadership meetings, we embarked on a school-based inquiry to bring to light areas for further development and used it as an opportunity to tune into our growth in our teaching and learning practices. Accompanying the questionnaire was a multitude of additional documents that we were required to provide, including district policies, unit planners, teacher timetables, district org charts, exhibition samples, a school action plan, and school and district literature promoting the growth of the PYP and demonstrating a commitment to the program to the school community, just to name a few. Our self-studies for Phase 1 schools were submitted this past fall. A few months after our submission, we received confirmation of the virtual spring visit. And while some may initially view a virtual visit as less stressful because we wouldn't have IB site visitors roaming our buildings and popping in and out of classrooms, I think you might find after chatting with some of the staff that the virtual visit proved to be more challenging in a way. For starters, it was even more imperative that our documentation depicted an accurate representation of our implementation of the PYP within our schools. Teachers and staff put a great amount of time gathering photo and videographic evidence to be able to share with the IB site visitors in preparation for the visit. Required as part of the virtual visit was several videos showcasing the teaching and learning that happens daily in our schools, as well as a school tour. Margaret can share how fun we had in creating that. 2 weeks out from the visits, we presented the IB team with additional evidence and documentation in hopes to provide a sense of our school culture and a glimpse of the IB standards and practices in action. I met with the site team to work out the details of the visit and collaboratively construct a schedule that was conducive for all parties. Over the course of 3 days, the IB site visitors met with all stakeholders, including district and building leadership, all instructional staff, students, and community members. They had the pleasure of virtually touring our facilities, including classrooms, to observe teaching and learning in action. And with the support of our technology department, we were able to utilize the tablet and swivel for virtual classroom visits. We were able to scan classrooms, have spontaneous conversation with both teachers and students. All of the IB teams repeatedly commented not only on the respectfulness and the energy of the students, but the fact that they loved seeing students in person in a classroom. And for that alone, I don't want to miss an opportunity to give kudos to this board for supporting an in-person learning environment for our young learners and working diligently to keep our students safe. While the visits felt brief, the amount of information collected from interviews and observation was no doubt bountiful. The team shared that they would triangulate the data they collected and work to create a report. The initial report would then be shared with an IB lead educator for review and approval, and we should anticipate a finalized copy within 12 weeks. The report will provide us with specific feedback to the IB standards and practices, and will have documented commendations, recommendations, and matters to be addressed. Information gleaned from the report will guide us in creating both short-term and long-term goals at the building and district level. As a collaborative team, instructional staff, building and district leadership, and community members will determine how to use the feedback from IB to feed forward. We will once again look at our strengths as schools and build upon those to further develop the program. As a result, the goal will be to have a well-informed action plan with a vision to sustain, improve, and grow the program. The action plan will be transparent and shared with the learning community. On a personal note, I consider my position to be slightly unique in that I've been witness to this journey full circle in a way. In 2013, when we started our work with the PYP, I was a 5th grade teacher at Plymouth Elementary. With my mentor, Ellen FR, leading the charge as one of the original PYP coordinators, my team and I quickly got on board. We invested the time and energy, we collaborated, we inquired, we grew together, and we carried out the first 5th grade exhibition in the district with their guidance. Ellen's commitment to the program is the reason I'm standing before you tonight. Her passion to change the course for our students at Midland Public Schools, along with a little bit of peer pressure, is what inspired me to apply for this position. Jen, don't laugh, you were one of those. Had I not been in the role of the PYP coordinator, though, I would not have been able to witness, without a doubt, the most rewarding experience of the evaluation visit, which was being able to observe the students' interaction with the visiting team, particularly small groups of 5th graders. The confidence, knowledge, and passion that was demonstrated by these students affirmed to me that the work we are doing is meaningful and powerful. Their ability to look beyond themselves and their community and see the world through a different lens has affirmed that the philosophy and framework of the PYP, when implemented with fidelity, is empowering our students to be the best version of themselves, along with supporting the district's focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Lastly, I want to celebrate the collaborative efforts that made the evaluation visit so successful. It was an incredible learning curve, and I was fortunate that Robin HR, my PYP partner, worked side by side with me through the process, and that Jen was an inquirer and ready to learn alongside us. Even my retired mentor, Ellen, was there to offer a supportive hand, sharing late-night proofreading sessions and anything else that was needed. I learned so much from my partnership with Melissa Toner and Dave Disick. With an entirely remote visit, I relied on the expertise of this team for numerous things. They taught me how to use an Osmo camera for recording. They brainstormed best avenues to share the evidence with the team and modeled how to use the technology such as the tablet and swivel during the visit. And because they are incredible humans, they showed up on the scene for my first visit to ensure that technology was up and running and were ready to problem solve when inevitably the tech wouldn't cooperate, which did happen. I'm truly thankful for the all hands on deck approach from teachers and staff members throughout the district. As I reflect on the events of this incredibly crazy year, my hope is that we will move forward from the evaluation with greater self-awareness as a learning community and a renewed spirit that will bring about meaningful change and growth. Thank you again for this opportunity to share tonight. Margaret?
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Margaret Doan. I'm the principal at Plymouth, and I couldn't agree with Whitney more. Having a successful virtual visit really did rely on teamwork, collaboration, and all hands on deck. My journey started out much like Whitney's. I was a teacher at Chestnut Hill when our Phase 1 schools went to be candidate schools. Being on the administrative side of this evaluation visit gave me a more well-rounded view of the entire process and also allowed me to appreciate how far we've come in our primary years program journey. An example of this, I remember during our candidacy phase, I remember just feeling that it was very artificial to use words like form, function, perspective. We all worked really, really hard to memorize those words and make sure we were using them right. And now you can walk into any of our MPS elementary classrooms, DK through 5th grade, and you can hear staff and students using those words like everyday language and appropriately. With this visit, our learning has definitely grown. We found ourselves worried about different things, not just language to go with the PYP program, but instead, is our inquiry authentic and across the day? Have we truly captured student actions accurately in our planners? Moving forward, I'm using this visit at Plymouth specifically for a reset and a refresh. It was great to highlight the growth and progress that we've made in our PYP journey, but it was also a reminder that since our initial candidacy, a lot has changed. I'm guilty of forgetting how many new staff members we have since that initial time and how much change we go through every single year. Unfortunately, with all that happening, it's easy to lose intentionality and focus. This visit has rejuvenated me as a leader and reminded me that PYP needs to continue to be a focus and stay at the center of our thinking as a true framework for what we do. Already, thinking ahead, Whitney, the Continuous Improvement Group, and myself, we've already been brainstorming things that we want to do starting next year. One of our goals is to work on streamlining everything we have in a day and everything we do. We're going to revisit visible thinking strategies through a book study. We're going to spend time and go back to the basics with making the PYP happen. These include all of the elements of PYP that have changed the way we teach, how it looks, and how it sounds. I'm excited to get our report back from IB because even though it will be a tool to help us improve, it's also going to be a way that we can really celebrate all the growth and things that we already do well. Thank you.
Thank you for having us here tonight. This is Christina Tignanelli, and my name is Cassie Kramer. We teach at Chestnut Hill, and just wanted to take a moment to share how grateful we are to be part of a district that endorses the primary years program. We recently completed our IB evaluation visit. We received lots of positive feedback and look forward to receiving input on how we can further use our time, talents, and resources to elevate us to the next level. 7 years ago, when we began this adventure, our goal was to teach students to be globally minded, to think more reflectively about people beyond our own community, as far-reaching as those on the opposite side of the planet, and consider how we might all be connected, because just maybe we're more alike than we are different. In addition to wanting to build a community of empathetic learners who thrive on inspiration and challenge, we set out to foster a curiosity in students that would lead them to take ownership of their learning in ways that would result in them taking action outside of the school day. So, humble beginnings. Shortly after we began this journey, one parent shared with me at a parent-teacher conference that her daughter was definitely learning to think for herself when her daughter stated, "Mom, it is my perspective that my bedtime should be 8:30. I just don't believe that an 8 o'clock bedtime is right for me, and here are all my reasons." Although trying to be supportive, I could tell that the mom wasn't really that thrilled with my encouraging thinking skills in this way. But inside, I was actually really excited that my student was reflecting on her situation. So that is how we began. As a teacher, I quickly started reflecting on how we could perhaps mold those risk-taking communication skills into something further reaching. Well, because of dedicated colleagues who are eager to collaborate, sharing ideas and experiences, supportive parents who choose to stay informed of classroom happenings and district philosophies, and visionary leaders, our principals, our PYP coordinators, our administrative staff, who listen to feedback and are open-minded toward investing ongoing training and resources for their teachers, we have been given space to grow. We are proud to report that we now have inspired, risk-taking students taking on much bigger endeavors than a later bedtime. Christina is going to share one example of what action looks like after several years on the PYP journey.
As Cassie mentioned, adopting the PYP has inspired our students and our staff to think about their role in helping our community and those outside of it to thrive. Our intention is to help encourage students to recognize that we are all interconnected. As our students grow in their understanding of what it means to be globally minded, they have been motivated to take actions outside of our school community. For example, this year, I had the privilege of working with a globally minded student who raised $15,000 through the Gulf for Africa organization in order to fund a well for a rural village in Africa. She taught us that many young girls in rural Africa walk miles to collect drinking water for their families, which results in them missing school. The water they collect often carries diseases that can make everyone drinking the water sick. My student wanted to take action to help improve the lives of the people in this community, so she set out to raise money for this well. This one student-driven action resulted in bringing clean drinking water to an entire community and also helped keep girls her age in school. In addition to providing a real-life example of how we are interconnected, this action led us to a great discussion about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We spoke about why it would be equitable to help those living in rural African communities to obtain a well for clean drinking water. By providing our students with opportunities to learn about the world around them, we are helping them develop the tools to become an active member in a diverse world and simultaneously teaching them that they have the power to make a real difference in the lives of others. As we reflect on our growth as a PYP district over the past 7 years, we feel that we have come a long way since those humble beginnings, but we also recognize that we have more to learn. We will continue to adapt, reflect, and set new goals for ourselves and our students. One goal we have for the future is to better implement DEI practices. We aim to meet the needs of all of our learners where they are. We plan to better utilize diverse resources, have conversations that will promote more open-minded individuals, and ensure that all of our learners have the same opportunities. While we are still awaiting the report of celebrations and recommendations from the evaluating team, we feel that we had a very positive and encouraging interaction. The evaluators were excited to hear about what we were doing, especially given the pandemic restrictions. They love seeing student-driven learning and engaged with both staff and students in a very positive and encouraging way, which further solidified our appreciation to be part of a PYP district. When you walk away from an evaluation wanting to be a better person, you know you are part of something special. Thank you.
My name is Samuel Tay. I'm in the 5th grade in Miss Gonzalez's class at Plymouth Elementary. I'm with the PYP visiting team. I shared how I learned about the world around me. Each day in my class, we watch CNN 10. This is a great way to learn about events happening in our world. Most recently, we have learned about the cyber hacks that ransomed the Colonial Pipeline and the riots that are happening in Israel and Palestine. I think it's important to know about what is going on in the world so we can make better decisions for the future. Also, it is important to learn about events in the world so you know how to be safe in the present. Learning about events that have happened in the past will help us make a better future for everyone. This year at Plymouth, all the 5th grade students have pen pals from Stockholm, Sweden. We have the opportunity to ask questions back and forth to each other. Pen pals have even shared some Swedish words with me. I have learned we have a lot of connection with our pen pals. For example, many of us like the same sports. I've learned that skiing is much more popular in Scandinavian countries, though. Also, did you know that American football is not popular in Sweden? It's much more popular to play and watch rugby. It's been a great experience interacting with my pen pals. Even though we are on opposite sides of the world, we have learned that we are all connected in many ways. Thank you. Hello, my name is Elliot King, and I'm a 5th grade student in Miss Renfro's class at Plymouth Elementary. I had the opportunity to talk with the visiting PYP team about the 5th grade exhibition and the importance of academic honesty. My exhibition topic is amphibious vehicles. I learned that it is hard to find good, credible websites. Typically, credible websites include .gov, .edu, and .org. When researching, it is important to read the entire document or website. You should also read information from multiple sources. If the same information is found multiple times in multiple places, chances are that it is more accurate and true. It is important to look at who published the information and when it was published to be sure the information is current and relevant. Finally, it is very important to get all the information because in 5th grade exhibition, it is my job to become the expert. Another important fact about academic honesty is to be sure to put all of the information in your own words. You need to stick to the facts when sharing research, and it is important to try not to share your personal bias. Show integrity and always be honest. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bradley Chesney, and I'm a 5th grader in Mrs. Max's class at Plymouth Elementary. The visiting team asked how students at Plymouth are able to create change and take action. I shared with the team about Leadership Plymouth. Leadership Plymouth is very similar to our working government. For example, the students of Plymouth Elementary are like the citizens of a community. The members of Leadership Plymouth act like legislators and representatives. The students share ideas and actions with the leadership team, and then the ideas are shared with the principal and the PTO. Decisions about our school are made in collaboration with our PTO. Students at Plymouth have a voice, and our ideas are considered. Together, we organize events for Plymouth. It is important to work as a team to bring about change for our school. Some of the events we plan and organize raise money for our schools, and others are just for fun, such as spirit days and holiday events. The money we raise goes directly to the students and staff at Plymouth. For example, we are able to help purchase new gym equipment, field day supplies, books, and school supplies. Taking action is an important skill to learn. Working together for positive change is what Leadership Plymouth is all about. Thank you.
And now we look to build for the future. As Whitney mentioned earlier this evening, we will receive our IB reports within the next few months. The coordinators will work with building leadership and staff to create an action plan for the building. This work is very exciting for us as it directly connects to the work of the new continuous improvement process. We will be redesigning our future with all hands on deck working to break down silos. Our collaborative team will consist of 3 PYP coordinators, 4 literacy specialists, building principals, continuous improvement team members, and our DEI director. The PYP framework supports all of the moving parts of our district: MTSS, social emotional learning, DEI, trauma-informed practices, and curriculum implementation. We will work together to support teachers, students, and building and district leadership. The IB mission is to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help to create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. As we work to redesign and build for our future, we want to empower our students to become active, compassionate, and lifelong learners. Our visits have provided a new energy and focus around our work. We are excited to see what the future holds for our students, staff, families, and community. A favorite quote to leave you with tonight from Mother Teresa: "I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters and create many ripples." Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share with you tonight from the field. And of course, if you have any questions, we would be happy to answer.
I don't have a question, but I have a reflection. So thank you, students from Plymouth, for sharing what you do in the classroom. Your stories back to us really help us understand in a real way the impact of such an important program. And your dedication in your classroom and you having the courage to come up here and share in front of the Board of Education as well as so many parents is commendable. So thank you very much. For the teachers and administrators, and I am so thankful for the PYP program and for what you do. This is such an important project for our time in our schools, and to see what the end product is, the final outcome with these wonderful students and how they're thinking and using these tools that you are spending so much intentional time with them and helping them build is going to pay off not only for Midland Public Schools, but it's going to pay off for our future, for our grandkids and down the line. So I want to thank you for the time and energy you're putting into this. And students, thank you for the time and energy you're putting into this. and for having the courage to come up here today.
Very well said, Pam. Anybody else? John, of course.
Yeah, who all makes up the evaluation team from the IB?
So there are typically two
Okay.
from around the world.
Okay.
So we have had, the last few, we've had representatives from Chicago, the Atlanta area, we've had
Okay.
some from Quebec.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's sort of, they put the dates out there and then people from the visiting team sign up to, one is a lead and then the other is the co.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Jen, this will be the first report we get back.
Yes.
Are you seeing other longitudinal success, like data success in student outcome or student growth from the implementation over the last 7 years?
I think that yes, and more to come. I think
Mhm.
with aligning a lot of our systems work that we're doing right now, we will be able to see those consistent patterns and that data coming back to us in a positive way.
Great.
This is a question for you boys. I know you're fifth graders, correct?
Yes.
So you've gone through the IB program since you were starting school. Have you felt yourselves, I know you're only, what, maybe 10, 11, somewhere in there. Have you seen with each grade from kindergarten going through that you have grown and done different things in your classroom, but yet they've all kind of come together by the time you're in fifth grade? Did you do some exhibition projects too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. I definitely think that there has been a lot of growth throughout the years. Of course, we have our exhibition project, which we're basically creating our own unit of inquiry. And so with exhibition, everything kind of sort of leads up to the final project. That's what that is. But of course, we learn about all sorts of stuff that's happening all over the world, taking action, that sort of stuff. We have definitely learned a lot through the PYP program, and I think that it has served us well.
Hey Jen, when is exhibition night for these guys?
Do you guys know what your exhibition is?
June 2nd.
2nd.
Are we virtual, or can board members see that in some way?
An outdoor event.
There you go, board members, you want to see it in action.
Yeah,
Thank
every building's doing it a little bit different.
Thank you. And thank you, teachers and everyone that's involved.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Very impressive presentation. Okay, that'll take us to item 3.2, Shining Star Awards. Mr. Sherrill.
Yeah, I'm not aware if Erica's Lampiard's here tonight. If not, I'll read all kinds of good things so you can hear about them later. Okay, Erica's our first Shining Star. Erica joined the MPS team in 2015 as a kindergarten teacher at Woodcrest Elementary. Before her full-time teaching position, Erica was a temporary Title I teacher and substitute. Erica earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree in elementary education in 2014 and her Master's of Science degree in curriculum instruction from Western Governors University in 2020. Erica was nominated for a Shining Star by a Woodcrest parent and as well as a colleague. Among their comments were the following. Ms. Lampiard is a valuable member of the Woodcrest team. She regularly goes the extra mile when it comes to working with students and meeting their needs. Erica is a team player who is respected by colleagues, parents, and students. Her warm personality and supportive nature are a combination that helps her kindergarten students to get their educational career off on a very positive start. My daughter had Erica last year for her kindergarten teacher, and she was absolutely amazing during the transition and implementation of virtual learning. She was so well organized and willing to meet each child at the levels they were able to handle during such a stressful and unique time. She was always open to questions, to being creative as we worked to maintain and advance our daughter's learning. She created many wonderful opportunities to connect with her students, including videos of her reading stories, trying unique and fun experiments, and more. She is truly caring and a wonderful teacher. Our daughter was incredibly fortunate to have had Erica in her introductory year to public schooling, especially with the unique challenge that COVID shut down. Congratulations, Eric Lampier. And I don't think Tracy's with us. Our second shining star is Tracy Chamberlain. Tracy joined the MPS team in 2017 as a systems analyst in the technology department. Tracy earned her Bachelor's of Science degree from Ferris State University in 2006 with a major in computer information systems. Before coming to the MPS, Tracy was a network specialist in the technology department at St. John's Public Schools. Tracy was nominated for a Shining Star by an MPS colleague. Among their comments were the following. When I had to work from home for a few weeks and there were some duties I needed to do in the office, Tracy stepped up to fill in, improve processes, and make my absence much less stressful. Tracy's had a good attitude and handled everything flawlessly, professionally, and with precision. Tracy's a valued member of the team, and I applaud her hard work she does every day and work ethic she brings to technology. Another colleague wrote, in the past 4 years, Tracy's had a significant impact on the technology team. She has a can-do attitude that is persuasive in her work. She sees work to do and finds the best way to use her talents and helps support to complete that work regardless whether it's part of her responsibilities or not. Tracy is excellent at developing, documenting, and then revising processes to make them as efficient as possible. This has been a great asset to the technology team, moves to align itself with best practices, including service management. Tracy's had a great rapport with members of the technology team and other peers throughout the district. She approaches her work with a positive attitude and customer service mindset that shows in her interactions with all stakeholders. Our team is very lucky to have Tracy. Congratulations, Tracy.
Okay, thank you, Mike, and congratulations to Erica and Tracy. Next up, we have item 3.3. This is an action item. This is expulsion of student A. Mr. Jaster.
Good evening. The board committee comprised of 3 Board of Education members, Mr. McFarland, Mr. Hatfield, Mr. Roush, Superintendent Sherrill, Associate Superintendent Jaster, and a building administrator met April 30th, 2021 in regards to student A, who's been recommended for expulsion. It's the committee's recommendation that student A serve the expulsion for the remainder of the 2021 calendar year. Student A is automatically eligible for reinstatement beginning January 3rd, 2022. Student will receive off-site academic service during the expulsion, and this action does require a roll call vote. Lastly, a copy of the full resolution can be found in your Board of Education packet tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Jaster. Pam, will you take a roll call, please?
Well,
We need to move.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion for item 3.3, expulsion of student A for the remainder of the 2021 calendar year.
I'll support.
Motion by Mr. Roush, support by Mr. Hatfield.
And then we'll go into a roll call vote. President McFarland,
Yes.
Vice President Roush,
Yes.
Secretary Singer, yes. Treasurer Lauterbach,
Yes.
Member Baker,
Yes.
Member Blasey,
Yes.
Member Hatfield.
Yes.
Thank you. 7 out of 7.
Okay. The motion will carry. All right, next up we have item 3.4, another action item. This is the annual renewal and review of the superintendent contract. So Mike, it's that time of year again, and I get to talk about you for a couple minutes. Try and keep this brief. As you know, your contract is reviewed and renewed by the Board of Education on an annual basis to examine and maintain the length of term and to ensure that your compensation package is competitive and in line with your performance, as well as the compensation levels of your peers, both locally and in similar districts across the state. Notably, Mike, this year, as you slowly close in on retirement, you've requested to not extend the length of your contract as the board has done for you in years past. Your current compensation level is less than local superintendents, including Bay City Public Schools, Meridian Public Schools, and the MCESA, all of which have significantly lower budgets than Midland Public Schools. On a statewide level, your compensation is also lower than superintendents of similar districts, including Rockford, Birmingham, Bloomfield, East Grand Rapids, Okemos, Troy, Saline, and Lapeer, to name a few. You're underpaid, Mike, but it's by your choice. And this started when we hired you. You negotiated a lower salary due to the poor financial condition of the district. MPS was on the brink of bankruptcy and in a position markedly different from where it stands today. And that's just one of the examples that from the get-go, you've been doing what you think is best for this district. For the past 8 years, you have helped breathe life into our district by constantly evaluating and reshaping nearly every aspect of Midland Public Schools. You always have done so with an eye towards the advancement of our students and the betterment of this district. I believe every one of your annual superintendent evaluations conducted by this Board of Education have resulted in the unanimous score of highly effective, which, as you know, is the highest score a superintendent can achieve. I want to highlight a few achievements in addition to those evaluations. MPS now stands with one of the highest fund balances in its history, even though MPS receives only half the compensation rate per student than many other districts in this state receive. Enrollment has stabilized through innovative and out-of-the-box approaches to education. MPS is the highest rated district across Middle and Northern Michigan, top 10% in the state and top 25% in the nation. Your efforts have helped pass the bond and millages, including hold harmless, non-homestead, and enhancement millages. This has led to rebuilding and re-engineering our schools and a ground-up build of Central Park, which is an award-winning school that continues to get monthly visits now 5 years after it's been constructed. You created a PATHS program that has saved at least 100 school students from dropping out and giving up on their education. Your attitude is always no students are left behind, and every effort is expended to save them. More recently, you helped develop an innovative, bold, and award-winning DEI plan to enhance diversity, equity, and inclusion at MPS. It is used as a model by districts across the state. You've also helped create an equally robust social emotional learning plan that is now the talk among schools statewide. You've had numerous difficult decisions to make and situations to deal with over the years. The last 2 years are no exception to that. In fact, they've been some of the most challenging and unpredictable years in MPS history. And despite this adversity, you have achieved and continue to achieve so much. You lead, you walk the walk, and you lead by example with integrity and transparency every step of the way. Mike, the proposed changes to your contract will bring your compensation in line with your contemporaries both locally and statewide. Further, the proposed changes are almost lockstep with what the other work groups at Midland Public Schools have received by way of their respective contract renewals. The proposed changes to your contract have been provided to each board member as part of their board packets for review. And at this point, I will now accept the motion to approve the changes to your contract.
I move to approve the superintendent contract.
Support.
Motion by Pam, support by Phil. Any further discussion?
Well, I had a couple things written down, and you stole the thunder, Scott. But one thing I do want to mention, Mike, is, I believe that every leader is measured by the people around them and the people that they lead. And I think we all look to this group right here and the others that you sit in the hallway with at the administration center as a reflection of your leadership. And I know that this district is in a great place with the crop of employees that are behind you, and thank you for your leadership and setting us up for success in the future.
Well said.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Scott, superintendent evaluations and contracts are a reflection of the community, the district, and the employees behind me. So I say that every time, and and thank you, Phil, for saying that, because they're the ones that do yeoman's work every day. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. Item 3.5, another action item. This is the Midland Public Schools Equity Audit. Penny.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, I have for your action contract for an equity audit. The district reviewed multiple proposals from various national organizations. The process included input from various stakeholder groups and the DEI advisory team. Based on our process and in alignment with the defined selection criteria, we are recommending signing a contract with Insight Education Group out of Encino, California for a total of $60,000. The audit will encompass a review of qualitative and quantitative data across all aspects of our organization, which we're very happy about. It will be a very thorough review. One of the key points will be perception data that will be gathered through stakeholder surveys, focus groups, and interviews. The pre-work phase of the audit is slated to begin upon approval of this contract here tonight, with data collection and analysis occurring throughout the summer and into next fall. The Insight Group will provide a detailed analysis on district data, highlight trends, and identify areas of improvement midway through the audit, and the planned completion of this process is slated for January of 2022. The district is seeking grant to support the cost of the audit, but we are prepared to assume the full cost through general fund if necessary.
Okay.
I move to approve item 3.5, the equity audit with Insight Education Group for a total of $60,000.
Support.
Motion by Pam, support by Lynn. Any further discussion regarding item 3.5? All in favor, say aye.
I had a couple questions, Scott.
Yes, Brad.
The two different, Penny, the two different examples that they give in the packet is Colonial School District in Delaware and Jackson Public Schools in Mississippi. Reading those and then looking at the information online, they look totally different. That Colonial was top down and Jackson was kind of bottom up. Is that how they come in and do an evaluation to determine how they're going to do that, or do you have a gut feel of how they want to approach us?
Yeah, that's a great question. The process so far has been very collaborative. DeAndre and I have already met with the two who will be our point people, Britt Britton and Jess. Sorry, I'm blanking on Jessica's last name. And they are very collaborative in how we'll approach this. I don't feel that it is, they certainly have a well-defined, documented process that is research-based and that they've used before, but we have a lot of autonomy to determine how many focus groups, input about the survey, how that will be launched. The timeline was really our call, and again, really a collaborative approach. Am I answering your question?
I'm just guessing on your focus groups, is that going to be staff, students, balance, or is it going to be heavier in one or the other?
No, it's
these were very different.
It's a fairly balanced approach, and I don't have that in front of me. I apologize, but we are intending to interview various stakeholder groups. So there will be teachers by grade level, there will be support staff, there will be district level administration, there will be parents and families. Certainly student voice is important, and even a community stakeholder group.
Okay, and since we have a DEI expert and talent on our team, does that help in all of this, or are they going to be critiquing of that person's role as well?
I don't believe they'll necessarily critique Mr. Hogan's role.
Well, he hasn't really done,
he will
barely started, but.
He'll be an active member of the process just like the rest of us, but his particular role isn't necessarily part of the process per se.
Got
He
it.
will serve as our point person and
Okay.
really be the anchor, coordinating all of the information that will be required for their analysis.
Okay. Have these other districts, were you able to talk to them to see what tangible items they got out of all this and how they're improving themselves on an ongoing basis?
DeAndre actually made the reference calls. I did not personally.
Okay.
But we have seen some samples of the final report, which typically includes a host of accommodations, things that, accolades, things that we're doing really well, and then a list of recommendations by area. So they'll look at business and finance, human resources, curriculum instruction, really all facets of our organization, and they will offer us recommendations for improvement. Along with the disaggregation of the data that they take a look at.
Good. Last question, are they going to come, is this a multi-phase process? This is talking about roughly 6-8 months.
Yes.
Once we get that information, will they be part of a phase 2?
I'm sure they would welcome the opportunity to be part of phase 2 and helping us put those recommendations into action. But the terms of our contract are really to that point where they offer the final report, and then we can make a decision from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, that brings us to requests to address the board. We have 3 people who want to address the board tonight, and I just want to remind our guests tonight that the board is here to listen to you, but we will not be actively engaging in dialogue. If there is a question that does require an answer, we will get that to you in written form as soon as we possibly can. And finally, please be mindful of the 5-minute time clock. That said...
Hey, Scott, I had
yeah.
one other thing.
Sure.
Because it's so new and the email that we got an hour before this meeting, should you share that so that they have some of that information? I mean, that's so fresh off the press.
I think there's a lot of things I could share quickly if you...
Yes, please.
Throwing me the ball, yeah. So it's moved very quick, as we all know, and it continues to move very quickly. The announcement Friday, I think even through OSHA and other organizations into a lot of different situations, as well as some of you may have read that the CDC has kind of backed up on their stance on schools a little bit. So as of Saturday morning, May 15th, CDC issued a new recommendation that schools continue to use their current COVID-19 prevention strategies for the remainder of the 2021 school year, which includes masks for all students and staff. And the reason they did so, they listed 2 reasons. Students will not be fully vaccinated to the end of the 2021 school year, particularly the 12 and unders. And then they also talk about the amount of time that's needed for schools to make systems and policy adjustments in order to determine who's been vaccinated and not vaccinated. And so that was a change kind of from Friday's stance. And then today, as we said in our statement, that this is moving quick and that we would be continuing the monitoring. Our health department has made, well, last week, actually Friday, they made the recommendation to move back to a 10-day quarantine period, which we once were at until it spiked again, and also move from 6 feet to 3 feet. And so 0 to 3 feet, you would be quarantined for 10 days. 3 to 6, you'll be informed that you were a close contact, monitor symptoms, no need to quarantine. And that's in school, but if you were in your home, you're still quarantined, in quarantine for the 14-day period, which I think today we had about 40 left on our list, and of that 40, approximately 30 of those were close contacts in their homes. They're not school close contacts. And so that number's dwindling very fast for us. Over the last month, we've made great improvements. The health department today talked about masks, and so there's still some confusion. Our plan says in the return school plan that we adopted in August, we would follow our local health department recommendations, which we have done very well. All 40 county school districts, including the ESA, have done that religiously. And so our county today made the recommendation that outdoor masks do not have to be worn. And that's going to be well received because it had been a tough situation to determine who's vaccinated and not vaccinated at an outside event. So that helps a lot. But the recommendation, as you can see, is to continue masking in school for the final 18 days of the school year. And I think, the whole point is this summer and then the direction where we're going to go in the fall. Is that where you're...
Yes, so that they know that outdoor sports, outdoor events, outdoor school-engaged activities are no mask.
No mask.
Okay. With that update, Lisa Hansen, the floor is yours.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Thank you for coming back. It's good to see you again.
I know, it's great to be here. I think I made it pretty clear last time that I was here that school board meeting was never on my bucket list, and but I'm back. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I gotta say, I was sitting there calm, cool, and collected, and now I'm just fired right up again because I cannot believe with all the open states that are not just surviving, but thriving, that we as the grown-ups in the room are still sitting here with masks on. Amen. I don't even know what to say to this. This is ridiculous. I cannot stand it any longer. So let me just share a couple things. One of the slides that was presented said reflection, growth mindset, and celebration. We've had a whole year. People, we have had a whole year. We are the grown-ups in the room. We are supposed to be protecting our children. This is not okay. These masks are absolutely ridiculous. I don't even know how you can sit here with your masks on. And honestly, I was listening to the teachers talk, and I'm like, I don't even know how these kids have done it all year. I couldn't even, I'm like, pay attention, be present in the moment. I'm a grown-up with a skill set, and I know how to deal with stress, but this year has been unbelievable. It has been so stressful, and I am a grown-up. What we are doing to our kids is not okay. So I'm here to look at every single one of you and ask you to please unmask our children. These kids are they're not vulnerable. There is over 99% survival rate for these kids. They are not the elderly. They can handle all of this. But what we are doing to them, masking them up and making them live in this fearful environment, you were talking about emotional and well-being. People, it cannot just be me. This is insane. It is absolutely insane. Okay, let me get back to my notes. Where's the clock? Okay. You are being credited for evaluating and reshaping as you go along. There were originally, I think there were 11 states that never shut down. 14 have now lifted their mask mandates, and they're doing great. When are we going to start questioning the stuff that is coming at us? This is not okay. Doggone it, I was prepared to be calm, cool, and collected, but now I am just fired up because this is wrong what we are doing to these kids. These kids' brains are not fully developed. They don't have the coping skills and the stress management that we have grown-ups do. And I am about to come out of my mind right now. And I'm a grown-up in the room. I just cannot believe what we're doing to our children. And I'm sorry, because I wouldn't want to be you. I wouldn't. You guys you're getting information from all kinds of directions, and I understand that all the parents are emotional. Last month, we heard from someone who worked in the pediatric ward in Saginaw. These are not numbers that are coming to us from some article where we don't know where they're coming from. Suicide attempts by kids this past year, it's up 3 times what it was last year. And there are 13 and 14-year-olds wanting to take their lives. I have a 14-year-old. I take that very personally. My daughter just today said this stress is unbelievable. These kids should not be stressed out. And you know, the part that really bothers me more than anything, I told you last month that I've been doing my research. I am well aware that there is a much bigger agenda here. And you don't have to look me in the eye if you don't want to, but I appreciate those of you that are willing to do it. I really do. Because we are in a community together. We're working together for the betterment of our kids. And you don't get to just suspend the Constitution of the United States of America. We all have rights here. We all have rights. And I'm asking you today to please, for the love of God, give the parents and the kids a choice on these masks. Give us a choice. If the parents want to send their kids to school with a mask on, I am all for it. But those of us that don't, we have rights too, and I am sick and tired of this. So I'm going to tell you right now, I learned a long time ago that it's not a matter of if you want to be a leader. It's a matter of what kind of leader you want to be. Because someone is always watching, and these kids are watching us. We are the leaders. We're not leading, we're following. We have other states that have modeled it successfully. If you don't unmask our kids, you don't have to tell us who you are, because you're showing us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Next, we have John, is it Kowicki?
That's right.
All right, sir. Welcome and thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I probably won't need that. I speak pretty loud. What a great time to be alive. This is a great time for us to be alive so we can figure out how to handle this. I'm here to support my daughter who was just up here. She's a warrior. I love that kid. but I'm here to support my granddaughter who's in high school at Dow High School, and I'm going to tell you what, I love that kid. And as a grandfather, as a father, as a husband, I want to give the highest quality information that I have to my family. Well, 15 months ago, I didn't have a lot of idea what was going on with this COVID thing, and I became obsessed with information. You can do something with information. You can't do a lot with feelings. My wife says I have a cold heart. Feelings is not part of my agenda. Facts and information, and what I've learned over this last year, I got on the internet and articles, and I literally, she came up behind me one day, I had my notepad and my iPad, and she said, I'm going to be at your graduation. There's no graduation. I wanted the information to pass on to them. And what I've learned is that I've listened to pharmaceutically trained professional medical people. I've listened to professional medical people that are not pharmaceutically trained. I'm not pharmaceutically trained. I'm not a medical professional. I've never worked in the medical profession. But they have an interesting perspective, and I brought this picture because I love this picture. It's a picture of a lion with a cub in its face, in its mouth, and here's the other picture. That's a deception. What I've learned is unbelievable, and one of the professionals I listened to talked about you can compromise your immune system by 15 to 20% if you're healthy. As a grandfather, why would I suggest and encourage my granddaughter to put a mask on that potentially could compromise her immune system by 15 to 20% when there's here's what I've heard from professionals, a 99.92 to 99.997 survival rate. I was here last month when the health department was here, and I heard them talk about cases. I did not hear one word about deaths related to cases. And then I watched it on the replay just to make sure. I had my notes. I had my notes. He's not talking about deaths related to cases. Deaths related to cases. I've heard some facts from professionals that are unbelievable. How much time? Okay, not much left. All I want to do is to encourage my granddaughter to not wear a mask. And what I'm asking the board, I don't have the power. You have power. You have the power to not force my granddaughter to suppress her immune system by 15 to 20%. That is unbelievable to me from everything I've learned. And you can ask my wife, if I have been literally obsessed with information and getting it, and because of the internet, we can go all over the world and listen to professionals, and there are two different perspectives. Professional people have two different perspectives. People here have two different perspectives. I have articles, face mask safety. I've got 2 articles here recently. This is the book my wife helped me put together to support my position. Face masks don't work from Stanford. Another one, face masks don't work from Stanford. I never went to Stanford. But I'm going to close with this because I see my time's running out. There are a lot of people here that don't have the ability to not breathe their own waste. Am I wrong here? I'm not that smart. Nobody's ever accused me of being a mental giant. And I mean nobody. But there's something not right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kwiecki. Next up is Ms. Laura Gray. Hi, Ms. Gray. Welcome and thank you.
I've written down my notes because I have a lot that I wanted to say, but I want to be very respectful of your time. So my name is Laura Gray. I have 3 kids at MPS. And I want to thank the administration and the board for allowing me to speak tonight. Since last March, our worlds have been turned upside down, and we know that all of you had decisions that you had to make that were unprecedented. In good faith, you all offered our community options. Many of us chose to have our kids back in school, even though it was hard to send them off every day to be masked up, sanitized, temperature screened, hiding behind desk shields, and walking one way down halls. We were glad they were in school. It wasn't ideal for students or staff, but it was deemed to be safe at the time when data was still new regarding this illness. A year later, data has been gathered and studies have been done, and yet our schools are still operating as if no data has been gathered and no studies have been done. One example is the in-school close contact quarantine practice, and I understand it was changed today, but it is still in effect. Did you know that many Michigan schools have changed it? They are no longer requiring any quarantine for close contacts at schools. Last week I called the Midland County Health Department to ask about the school-related quarantine rules, and I learned that on May 5th, the MDHHS ended the enforcement of school quarantine guidelines at a state level and pushed it to the local health departments. According to the Midland County Health Department, the quarantining of students who are a close contact at school is a recommendation. It is not a mandate. It could only be a mandate if our county was under an emergency health order, which we are not. Additionally, I asked the health department what percentage of kids who have had quarantine due to a close contact at school have tested positive. And she didn't know, but she said she thinks it was a very small number. She said the health department is very busy and they just haven't had time to track that data. But I'm wondering if MPS has been tracking this data to make the decision to continue to quarantine healthy kids. There was a recent court case, Let Them Play Michigan versus MDHHS, where Judge Kelly and the State Attorney General both reported that health department quarantine rules are not enforceable by law and are merely recommendations. In my research, I found there are over 30 Michigan schools that have recently stopped the quarantine of healthy students due to school-related close contacts. One county that is tracking this data is Kent County, and they said that less than 2% of all school-related positive cases have been linked to exposure inside of schools. I would like to know if MPS has been following this trend and looking at data for our schools to determine if it is necessary to quarantine healthy kids due to a school-related close contact. While my data is anecdotal, I know of no kids who were sent home as a close contact at school who ended up getting sick. Continuing to quarantine healthy students results in the loss of instruction, increased isolation, and unnecessary emotional stress. So while I know many of the rules that we're still having to live under are not under your purveyance, but this one is under your authority. Clearly the school has the authority to decide if they want to continue to quarantine healthy kids. I'm just wondering why MPS hasn't worked with the health department to track this data that directly affects if students are in class and getting instruction or not. This new rule of the 0 to 3 feet of contact will still cause kids to miss class if indeed you determine that this guideline applies to a student. Board, you are the proxy for the parents. We want to see you advocating on behalf of our students. We want to see you pushing the boundaries and asking the hard questions. I've seen several boards around the state who've collectively written letters to the MDHHS and to our governor asking why our students are still carrying the brunt of the regulations in this state. Kids under 18 have the fewest cases, carry the least risk, have been shown to not carry and transmit this virus, and are typically the most healthy and active age group of all demographics. And yet we're still forcing our kids to continue to comply with rules that are unnecessary and are damaging. On a personal note, I have only lived in Midland 7 years, but I've come to love this community. But my devotion is waning. This past week, my social media was inundated with photos from my home state of Texas where kids are enjoying prom. They're having graduations, they're having sporting events, they're having high school awards ceremonies, they're having concerts and other celebrations that mark the end of a high school year. And it honestly breaks my heart for the kids here in Michigan who are not being allowed those opportunities to celebrate with their friends and their family in a traditional manner. The high school years are especially important and full of milestones, and we are failing our kids. They're not getting to have these milestones or make these memories. And on a final note, I just want to say that as the year rolls down and we look to next year, I hope that you will give parents an opportunity to be a part of the planning. Please think about the experience that we want for our students, and if real-life data in our own community supports continuing to follow recommendations that only take into account one factor. Every day we make, in the course of our day, choices that are based on safety, and that's not the only metric that matters. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Okay, we have, next up is Malia Riteoff. Did I say that right? Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. So what I'm here for is I have two children that are in the Midland Public School District, one at Jefferson, one at Dow. Both will be in Dow hopefully next year. But what I want to ask of the board is to take into consideration all of the information that has been shared to you by concerned parents over the past 2 board meetings regarding masks, regarding quarantines, all of those things that have such an emotional and mental impact on our kids. I feel like our kids' education has been so overshadowed by all of this COVID protocol that they have to follow. What more can our kids do? They mask up, they social distance, they have desk shields that they can't stand because they fall all the time, which I don't get that whole thing because then they're on the dirty floor. But my kids are tested every single week to play a sport they played their entire lives. It's ridiculous. And then what happens is my kid gets close quarantined after he's tested. When does it end? When does it stop for our kids? I work a full-time job in the community as well as my husband. We don't have to deal with those things. We're not quarantined. I don't have to do all that. So what I'm asking is for you to take into consideration everything that has been said by concerned parents and give us an idea of what the 21-22 school year will look like. We need to know in advance, and I know you don't have those answers today, but I know that those are things that you have on your plate to talk about. What does that look like for our students? Because I need to understand, I made a conscious decision to bring my kids to Midland Public Schools because of the education they would receive. And if they're not going to get the education, it's going to continue to be overshadowed. I want to know that so I can make the right decisions for my kids, and I don't know if that's MPS. So I need to know that, and I'm sure other parents need to understand that as well. So that's my ask of the board on behalf of all concerned parents. And another thing, vaccinations. We all have our thoughts on that. We all will choose to either vaccinate our children or not. Will that be required? I know that we don't have those answers right now. Will there be segregation of non-vaccinated versus vaccinated? Those are important things that we as parents need to understand if we're going to continue to keep our children within the school district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, for anybody else in the audience who wishes to address the board, you're welcome to do so now. That is the end of the list of folks that I have. Is there anybody else who wants to come up? Okay, we are going to move forward. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Can you go to the podium, please? Thank you.
Hi, my name's Rhonda Haley. My kids are grown, but I have grandchildren that are in the school system still. And my concern as a grandparent is the forced vaccination. Because what I'm hearing is if you are vaccinated, then you get to do this or that. If you're not vaccinated, then you are discriminated against. You are discriminated against, okay? I do therapeutic, okay, which is just as good, if not better, than the so-called vaccination. Okay, this is an emergency use shot, okay? This has not been proven, and you are asking people to put things in their body that they do not know what is in that shot. You do not know what the ramification is that years down the road or even months down the road. But you guys are all asking everybody to get it or be excluded, which is absolutely ridiculous. Mask. I counted how many times people touched their mask. One was 11, the next was 22. Tell me If this is so deadly and so contagious, why is everybody wearing different kinds of masks? Why is everybody touching their mask? Why is there not places to put those masks? Hazardous bio things to put our gloves in and our mask in, if it is that contagious and that deadly. Come on. Common sense, people. Okay, common sense says if you were to mask your children at home outside of COVID all day, every day, that is child abuse. Okay? But you're asking us to do that to ourselves, and you're asking us to do it against our goodwill. Okay? My body, my health. Okay? You don't get to tell me that I have to wear a mask or I have to get vaccinated. Okay? It is my choice how I take care of my body. And that is through therapeutics. No one ever talks about that in news, anything. All they talk about is COVID, 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 shot, 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 vaccination, mask, 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 okay? That is not the only way. Guess what? I got a second opinion. And my second opinion says I don't have to wear a mask because it's not healthy. I don't have to force myself to take a shot so you guys feel better. Okay? No. And I'm not going to. I'm not wearing a mask because it is unhealthy for me to wear a mask. And I'm not going to let you or anyone else tell me I have to wear a mask or I have to get vaccinated or I can't be a part of everything, you know, or and be included, because that is called discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much for those who came up to address us. We appreciate it. We are going to move on. Next is curriculum, instructions, and assessment. We have some study minutes from Lynn.
Yes. We met on April 19th, and our first topic was diversity, equity, and inclusion update. DeAndre Hogan shared that MPS is in week 5 of the 10-week Racial Equity Challenge. This professional development is open to all staff, and we are excited about the opportunity to engage in this important learning. The district is also near the final stage of selecting a firm to conduct the equity audit. More information will be shared throughout that process. Special services presentation. Jessica Brunsell shared an overview of the special education services provided by the district, as well as an analysis of program strengths and areas of growth and improvement. Overall, the district is proud of the services and supports provided to meet the individual needs of students. The special services team continues to strive to fulfill the district vision of honoring and elevating all students. And we met today for our May meeting, and those minutes will be forthcoming.
Thank you, Lynn. Next up, for information only, we have item 5.2. This is a textbook adoption. Penny.
Hello again. I do have a textbook for your review. It will sit for the 28-day public review period and is available here in the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Office. The book that I'm presenting to you is for our International Baccalaureate Theory of Knowledge class. The title of the book is IB Theory of Knowledge, Print and Online Course Book Pack, the 2020 edition, and it is from Oxford University Press, again with the copyright of 2020. So we will bring that back to you at the next board meeting for action. I can continue on to 5.3.
Yes, please, thank you.
Great. For action tonight, at the last board meeting, I did bring to you a textbook for your consideration, and tonight it's here for your action. This is a textbook that will be used for grade 8 math. It is Big Ideas Math, Modeling Real Life, grade 8, from the Big Ideas Learning Publishing Company, copyright 2019. And the adoption of this, should you choose tonight to approve it, will be pending final budget approval.
Okay. I will accept the motion at this point for item 5.3.
Make a motion to approve item 5.3, Big Ideas Math.
Support. Motion by Phil, support by Mr. Hatfield.
Yep.
Any further discussion regarding item 5.3? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Penny, if you could continue with
Yes.
item 5.4?
5.4 is also for your action. At our April board meeting, I shared with you 11 curriculum and staff development proposals that are based on our identified needs at this time. These will be funded with general fund dollars pending final board approval. And these have gone through the official review process. I'll spare us reading those, but all of those titles are in your board agenda and in the board packet.
Okay.
I move to approve item 5.4 for the staff development proposal totaling $250,572.
Support?
I'm sorry, was that Phil?
Yep.
Okay. Motion by Pam, support by Phil. Any further discussion regarding item 5.4?
Penny, the very first line item, huge acronym. Could you help me? What is that?
Absolutely. It is MICIP, which is the Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process. It's the acronym for our new school improvement process. DEI, of course, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And MTSS is multi-tiered systems of support, which is our overarching framework for providing services and support to students. And you have brought to my attention that in the future, we will spell those out in the board agenda.
Okay. Is that for a certain age group, or is that broad reaching?
That spans developmental kindergarten all the way through grade 12. All of our schools will have a continuous improvement process that is aligned to our two goal areas, one of those being around safe and collaborative culture, and the other focuses a bit more on the multi-tiered systems of support through a balanced assessment system. So the short answer is it's our entire district and every individual school.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up, we have another action item. This is 5.5. This is the extended COVID-19 learning plan monthly reconfirmation.
Excellent. As if you hadn't heard enough from me tonight, one more time. So these slides will look familiar to you. These are the standard slides that we've used every month for our reconfirmation of our extended COVID learning plan. I'll bring your attention to the fact that there were no modifications to our plan. We have carried out our plan as written. I've noted that we continue to offer in-person learning for DK through 12, along with the virtual option that students have enrolled in. I did note for this slide the brief period of remote learning that we had from April 13th to April 23rd. Okay. Okay, the system isn't working. How about if I just talk you through it since I have them in front of me? The second slide was not unfamiliar to you as well. It is the slide that depicts our levels of instruction for our special population students, the percent of students who are in remote learning, and the percent of students who are not in remote learning. So there has been no change to that since our January report. Up there it is on your screen now. We'll advance to the next slide, a summary of public comment. Per the Public Act, we're required to submit our monthly report to our transparency site. This is just a high-level summary of the comments we've received. We've had questions whether a virtual learning option will be available for elementary and middle school students next year. We've fielded concerns regarding the change to Midland High's SAT date to May 18th. We've received a request to shorten the 2-week face-to-face learning pause that occurred in April. We had several comments received thanking us for the 2-week pause in face-to-face learning. We received several comments about the athletic pause, and we received a communication asking for the percentage of COVID immunized staff. Again, this is just a summary of those comments. And now I'll turn this over to Mr. Jaster for the attendance, two-way interaction rates.
Thanks, Penny. This is familiar. Obviously, we show this chart every month. Of particular note is the first row, because as you've noticed on the chart, I started to include to be determined. It's because the week of the board meetings, that is still a week where correction can take place from the previous week. So when we met in April, those numbers in row 1 were not finalized. So as you can see, 94%, 88, 95. And those numbers tend to be where we reside pretty consistently, so that all students group, as you can see, 94, 93, 92. Currently, in the week that's not complete yet, 91. Then those that are 100% remote are in the low 80s, currently 66, again, not complete. And then those that are not 100% remote captures our hybrid group, mid-90s and a 93 that's incomplete. So good numbers.
Great numbers. It's exciting to see the 88% and the 100% remote.
That's the conclusion of our report.
Okay, thank you very much. I will take a motion to approve item 5.5.
I'll make a motion to approve item 5.5, extended COVID-19 learning plan, monthly.
Support.
Okay, motion by Mr. Hatfield, support by Phil. Any further discussion regarding item 5.5? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, FFO, item 6.1, we have Finance, Facilities, and Operations Study Committee minutes from May 3rd, 2021. Mr. Lauterbach.
Thank you. The committee met on May 3rd. Mr. Sharrow and Mr. Bruton discussed the following topics with the committee. March financials. March 2021 revenues were up in comparison to March 2020. This is a result of the timing of receipt of tax revenues. Also, the 2021 energy bond revenues are now visible on the dashboard report. The ESA budget. The administration will recommend tonight adoption of the resolution expressing support of the Midland County Educational Service Agency budget at tonight's board meeting. The staff device purchase. The administration will recommend the purchase of replacement devices for staff members. If adopted, this action will replace devices that range from 6 to 9 years in age. Series 2 bond funds will be utilized if approved. Bid package 21-207. Bids were reviewed for painting the administration center. A recommendation will be brought to tonight's Board of Education meeting. Series 2 bond funds will be utilized if approved. Middle school cafeteria furniture. The administration will recommend the purchase of new cafeteria tables for both Jefferson and Northeast Middle School. Food service funds will be utilized if approved. 2015 bond refinancing. The committee was reminded of the pending authorization resolution at tonight's Board of Education meeting. Equity audit. As we've already covered, the administration will recommend entering into a contract with Insight Education at tonight's meeting. Finally, the June FFO meeting will be on June 7th of 2021.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, as alluded to, we have a number of action items coming up, starting with item 6.2. This is the bond construction bid, administration interior painting. Mr. Sharrow, Mr. Bruton.
Yep. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. For bid package 21-207, which does cover painting and drywall patchwork over at the administration center, we are recommending that bid gets awarded to the low bidder, Maniaci Watt or MC Coatings of Troy, Michigan, for $40,910. And if we do have your approval on that this evening, we will utilize Series 2 bond funds to cover that expense.
I will add they have local offices, so it's the home base is Troy. There is a local. But it is the first bid they've won, so first time we've had them.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve item 6.2, awarding the painting contract to MW Coatings for $40,910.
Support.
Was that John?
Okay. Okay, motion by Mr. Roush, support by Mr. Lauterbach. Any further discussion regarding item 6.2? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Takes us to action item 6.3. This is bond refinancing resolution. Mr. Bruton.
Yep, thank you. As mentioned at the last board meeting and in our FFO minutes, we have been approached by our financial advisors proposing to us that we contemplate refinancing our bonds that are callable. Per our FFO guidance and our financial consultants, we are asking for your authorization this evening to officially pursue refinancing of those bonds. Based on the market rates and how we do at the time of sale, our initial projections are in the range of $1.75 to $2 million in savings, again contingent on what the rates are at time of sale. If you do give us that authorization on the attached resolution, it will give us the ability to then pursue all actions necessary to commence with refinancing the bonds over the course of the next month and a half.
And I added that timeline in the Friday letter. If you approve that, there's a proposed timeline of how that'll occur.
Okay.
I move to approve item 6.3, the bond refinancing resolution.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Singer, support by Mr. Lauterbach. Any further discussion regarding item 6.3?
Hey, Brian, what kind of expenses will we incur for this refinancing? Like for performance contracting, we incurred a lot of expense on the legal side to be able to create the agreement, the RFP, all the above. Do we have incurred expense for this refi?
There will be incurred expenses, but I do not have those rates right in front of me, Brad, but that's something I'm happy to follow up with.
It would be similar, Brad. Still got a bond rate, exact same process, maybe a little more efficient on the attorney side because of...
They're already established. They're already written.
Yeah, but and then it comes out of those proceeds in your savings, so it's not a upfront cost to us as well. But yes, there's cost. We can get it for you, but it's the exact same process we went through on the performance.
Okay.
A little different sale. I shouldn't say the exact.
That's correct. We'll have an underwriter.
Yeah, we have an underwriter on this one. Okay, so the benefit of the underwriter is they buy any unsold bonds, and they actually incur that risk.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up is item 6.4. This is an action item, the Midland County Educational Services Agency 2021-22 budget.
I can enter it for you. So annually needs to be approved by law, local districts that an ISD serves. It's just part of the process. DSA can control their own budget, pass their own budget, no matter what. But each local school district, since they serve those districts, the board has an opportunity to approve their budget or deny their budget to them. And Brian has attended the details part of that with the business directors, and he can fill you in as we did the FFO committee.
Yep, thank you. The ESA budget is broken down primarily into two different funds, their general fund and their special ed fund. And in the overview that I attached to your board packet, you'll see that in general, there were 3% wage increases for all employee groups. Within the general fund, the capital project was the ceiling of pavement at a cost of $15,000. When all is said and done, there's a projected deficit of approximately $70,000, which will leave it at a general fund balance of approximately 11.8%. On the special education fund side, the same general numbers, the capital purchase including one van this year at an approximate cost of $50,000, a projected deficit of just over $16,000 with a 17.6% fund balance projected at the end of the fiscal year 22.
We do have Superintendent Searles and one of their board members, Kim Pacheski, in the audience if you had any questions or anything.
I move to approve item 6.4, the Midland County ESA budget.
Support.
Okay, motion by Ms. Singer, support by Mr. Hatfield. Any further discussion regarding item 6.4? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
Next up, item 6.5, another action item. This is the middle school cafeteria furniture. Mr. Bruton.
Thank you, sir. In our continued analysis of needs within the food service sector, we are now led to the middle schools for improvement of furniture. We worked with both principals, Principal DeBoer and Principal Sherman, to see what their needs are in terms of best serving their students. And what we found is that Northeast is desiring a complete replacement of all tables that they have in their cafeteria. So you can see that we are asking for 30 tables there. Jefferson recently replaced half of their tables and so are requesting replacement of half, so you can see we're requesting 17. So all in, we are asking for your approval this evening to purchase 47 total tables for a cost of $82,148, awarding that purchase order to Great Lakes Furniture Supply. That is using a national contract, but we do like to do our diligence to ensure that we are receiving the best prices. So we do have a quote tab as well that verifies that we are receiving the best price available, and we are seeking your approval to purchase those tables. If we do have that this evening, we will be using food service funds to fund that purchase.
I move that we approve item 6.5, purchase of middle school cafeteria furniture.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Hatfield, support by Mr. Lauterbach. Any further discussion regarding item 6.5?
Scott, on the using food service funds for that use versus bond series, what's the?
So food service can only be used in the food service area, and so it's restricted. And if you recall, we are right now making so much money on food service because a higher reimbursement rate and the ability to feed all students. And so we have you can only carry over so many funds, and we have a mandatory spend down in there. We purchased you recall, because you mentioned on the van and the pizza oven. So this is another one where they projected, looking ahead, that we may have excess funds, and these are the next set of needs. The Northeast tables, for example, are original to the building. You sat at that table as a boy, Brad. So.
Any further discussion, guys? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. We're getting there. Next action item is staff device purchase. Item 6.6. Mr. Bruton.
Thank you, sir. As mentioned in the FFO minutes, we are seeking your approval tonight to deliver 2 purchase orders to replace staff devices that range from 6 to 9 years in age. The total that we are seeking is $408,070.59, split between 2 vendors. The first, Intercomp TSG of Southfield, Michigan, for $392,205.75. This is for 625 ProBook touch devices. The purchase order to them also includes 15 HP ProDesk devices as well. The second purchase order in this package we'd like to deliver is to Say Hi Computer Products of Rochester Hills, Michigan, for a total of $15,864.84, and this is for 12 HP ZBook devices. This pricing is procured from the State of Michigan Spot Bid, which stands for the Statewide Purchasing Online Tool, which does follow our board purchasing policies, and if approved, this expenditure is scheduled to come from our Bond 2 series funds.
All right, thank you.
I move the approval of action item 6.6 for the purchase of staff devices as proposed.
Support.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Lauterbach, support by Mr. Roush. Any further discussion regarding item 6.6?
I have an obvious question, Brian, since we've been dealing with problems of delivery all along. Are we going to get these before school starts?
We hope.
I hope so.
Dave, you can add in if you want, but we are concerned. Yes, it's legit, Brad.
So right now, the lead time on the larger order is 15 days. They happen to have those. The chipsets they needed for those are in stock. So we're hoping to have those for the early summer. The smaller order is an 8 to 12 week lead time, but that's mostly for my team and a few other power users that use things like the Adobe Premiere Suite and need the higher CPU and GPU speeds, so that we can wait.
The staff devices presently still work. They're just 7-ish years old, and so it's time to replace, and that was built in the bond.
Okay. Do you have any update for us on Chromebooks, where we stand with that?
They're still on order and they're still on track for August delivery.
Okay.
So in preparations for the worst case scenario, we are collecting Chromebooks like we do, and Dave will try to repair as many of them as backups if they don't make it here on time.
We have enough to cover the 9th grade and new students at the high schools, and have the existing high school students have their existing devices back if they have to start the school year out, if for some reason they are later than August.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion for item 6.6? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, action item 6.7, Mr. Bruton.
Thank you, sir. 3 gifts tonight require your action. We can approve those as a package. Those 3 gifts total $181,831.55. The largest of which is $162,831. That is from many individual donors that flow through the Midland Area Community Foundation to dedicate to the H.H. Dow High School multi-use turf project. The other 2 are also for H.H. Dow High School and also Northeast Middle School. One from the Dow High Sports Boosters for $13,000 to fund football uniforms, and the other is for instruments from the Clayla G. Gortag Orchestral Enrichment Endowment Fund, and we would appreciate your authorization to accept those gifts this evening.
Okay, thank you.
I move to accept the gifts of item 6.7 of $181,831.55.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Singer, support by Lauterbach. Mr. Lauterbach. Any further discussion regarding item 6.7?
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Yes, thank you to everybody listed, including all the private donors who are unnamed.
Are you going to do an update of the turf?
I can. Yes, I can give you. And yeah, we'll do that during my part. Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion regarding 6.7? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up is an information only. Mr. Bruton.
Yep, thank you. Tonight we'd like to acknowledge gifts, 6 different gifts totaling $3,825.42. These gifts range all the way from soccer goals to baseballs to headphones. As you see in your board correspondence, we'll be acknowledging that with a letter from the Board of Education and also in the credits to each person in the meeting tonight. So we appreciate their generosity. I can move to 6.9 if that's
yes,
okay.
Please.
Thank you, sir. And we also would like to acknowledge the information, the gift of an item. These items were donated to us by the Islamic Center of Midland, who's become great partners of the Midland Public Schools. And they donated 95 books titled The Color of Us, 1 book for each of the K through 3 classrooms. And their generosity in supporting our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative has been very, very helpful to us. Thank you to them.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have item 7.1. Mr. Jaster.
Thank you. Staff members below have announced their retirements as of the effective dates listed here in the chart. First, Carolyn Krautzer is paraprofessional at Midland High School. Effective date June 10th, 2021. Kelly McCardle, assistant principal, Central Park Elementary. Effective date June 30th, 2021. Linda Swanson, teacher, Northeast Middle School. Effective date June 11, 2021. And then Michael Trebilcock, teacher at Jefferson Middle School. Retirement effective June 11, 2021.
Can I ask a question about 7.1? Is this an appropriate time to ask a question?
Of course.
Do we exit interview retiring employees?
I think that it has occurred in the past. I don't know if it's a regular routine for everyone, but if they request to do so, I think they're granted that.
The reason I ask, it has nothing to do with any of the particular individuals you just read off, but I've noticed just purely anecdotally over the last several months, employees who seem to be relatively young retiring at what appears to be the prime of their career. And it could be that they're eligible to retire with a full pension and they've just decided to go enjoy the fruits of their labor, but it also could be that there's a reason that people in their early 50s are electing to retire. So I'd be curious to know if that could become a more regular practice and if we could inquire.
Yeah. So
what's the trend?
So we do, and in a teacher group, when you have large numbers, he will do as those who ask him, and then he'll always add enough others to make sure he's got a good group of data on that. So we do exit interviews. I can speak to the retirement age of these folks. Yeah, so we are a 30 and out pension, and so many of these people who are doing the 30 out, though, you should understand, they've got other career opportunities that they're looking at, and so when you see some of them that you say that are 50 something, it's because many of them are going to take their pension and then do an additional thing to that, and so that's what's occurring, and that has occurred for a long time, and so most of us of our age in the room that are educators, we're also able to buy 5 years to our system. And so you'll see that some of these people at 52 have 35 years. And so, and they're still under the defined benefit, when new teachers are not under that benefit. So it's pretty decent retirement, and that's why some are heading out. Has COVID played into that for educators? It has. I think you know that. I think 33% of the superintendents in the state of Michigan will retire this year. And then of course, many of us are at that, the baby boom group is at that age too. So you are seeing retirements. So far in hiring, we've been okay. We've had to get pretty aggressive on one CTE teacher, and I think we're getting there on the special education area. Those are the two toughest areas to fill. But with us still being a destination district, we're okay. But you could see that change. Just so you know, in the future, we may have to get pretty creative, because it's going to get thinner and thinner over the next few years.
Okay. But we only exit interview.
Not every single teacher.
Not every single teacher, and not every single teacher like under 55 or under 60.
No, those who request, and then he increases it till he feels like he has a random group, a large enough random group.
Okay. All right, thanks. That answers the question for tonight.
Okay. Next up, we have 7.2. This is information only. This is the Midland City Education President Contract Lease. Mike, do you want me to just read this, or is this something?
No, I can intro it, and you can probably move through that. So the MCA president, who's sitting behind you, does teach still half a day. The other half of his contract is purchased, a little more than half, Mark. I'm saying that wrong, probably 0.6, is being purchased by the MCA for that. So it does not cost the district any funds. They reimburse you for all cost of him in there.
Okay. And that reads, under the terms from the current contract between the Board of Education of the Midland Public Schools and the Midland City Education Association, a 0.6 contract lease has been granted to Mark Halfbarth, president of the MCA, for the 2021-22 school year. And that takes us to item 7.3, information only. Mr. Jaster.
Thank you. The board and staff extend their deepest sympathy to the families of the following. Marilyn Costley passed away April 25th, 2021. Marilyn was a cook and crew leader at Northeast Middle School. She retired in 1996 with 22 years of service. Also, John Evans, who passed away April 26, 2021. John was a teacher at Siebert Elementary. He retired in 1984 with 23 years of service. Robert Saburn passed away April 8th, 2021. Robert was a music teacher at multiple MPS buildings. He retired in 2008 with 33 years of service. And then last, Terry McBride, who passed away April 30th, 2021. Terry was a teacher at Plymouth Elementary and retired in 2006 with 38 years of service.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up, item 8.1. These are letters from the Board of Education, and those entities are listed on the agenda. 8.2 are letters to the Board of Education from MGT Consulting as a FOIA request. Item 9.1 is a list of our remaining regularly scheduled meetings. Note that they will be at 600 East Carpenter unless otherwise noted.
Yeah, we're going to have to correct that. That's the administration center, so we post
Oh, that is, okay.
Yeah.
And we have
So they'll be here unless otherwise noted.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
and we have two in June.
Yes, we do. Next up is our study discussion session, and are there any points of clarification from any of the items we discussed tonight on the agenda that we need to revisit before I turn the floor over to Mike?
Well, in regards to the people wanting to get answers, it's not anything we're going to decide today, but I would like to get something rolling for our June meetings of what information we can gather and what we think our 2021-2022 school year is going to look like.
So I can address that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have had those discussions multiple times. All of our state organizations, the School Board Association, the Superintendent Association, and some of the comments were about lobbying and Lansing, and do we do that? Yes, we do. And I personally do that. I know Pam's very involved with the MASB one as well. I think Phil's gotten involved. But the best way to do that is we have our organizations who actually have a voice in Lansing lobby constantly. So yes, it has been an extremely frustrating school year for all of us in the education field because not only of protocols, but how fast, literally, I follow this on a daily basis, and John's in the back, and we have a hard time at times saying, okay, are we current with the current situation going on? That's how quickly it changes and has changed. So there's lots of frustration with what occurs from Lansing, and some of that telling you that you have choice fully in that. I'm not sure that's truly true, and so the 30 school districts in the state that was quoted most of them have been forced by the county health departments back into protocols, and so that's not completely accurate. They make headlines, but when you know the work behind the scene, what do we believe we're going to face next year with vaccines? It's clearly we're heading in the right directions, and that most likely we'll come back to school with many protocols gone. Exact protocols I can't tell you, and anytime I've tried to make a guess in COVID, I've been wrong, and so I've gotten gun shy about how fast we move and can we predict what's going on. My personal opinion, and those in the audience, I think all of us love wearing these masks. I don't think there's any one of us up here who love wearing these masks, and I would shed this thing as fast as I can the moment I walk out of here, and I think all of us feel that way. But we are, by law, as a school board, if we're meeting face to face, we must wear masks. And all of us, you were elected, I was hired to follow the law. And so we must wear if we're meeting them face to face. And so I think, truly, I think my OSHA, CDC backed up a little bit on these recommendations because they want to finish this school year strong, get immunizations so we can return to school next year without a mask mandate. Now, I don't know what that's going to mean, meaning do you still have to have them in certain situations? Are we wearing them down the hall every day? I'm hoping not. I don't believe so. The other one I can tell you that a lot of protocols we put in place, so we've learned a lot in 15 months, and we certainly had to follow those recommendations, and we got, about 70% of our parents to come to school because we made them feel safe enough to give it a try. And so we did so consciously, buying temperature sensors and desk shields, and we bought them before anyone else did to make sure we had them, put them on the tables, not thinking it probably was overkill. Brian and I were deeply involved in that process and thinking, this is a little overkill, but we are going to make people feel as safe as possible and get them in school. So do I think desk shields will be around next year? I don't, but we'll see. Temperature sensors, I think hopefully we can turn those into something because I don't think that's going to be around as well. One-way hallways, maybe. We don't know, where those are going to go. And so I think we're heading in the right direction. I think we're going to go very well. So in our mind, with virtual learning K through 8, I think we know kids learn better in school at that age. I think virtual plays a part. So last week we polled a little bit on the virtual learning. I think we're going to tackle that once school gets out, mid to late June. And the reason why are we waiting, and it's not my nature to wait. Anyone who knows me in the room knows it's not my nature. I usually lead, I don't stand behind, is because I'll be wrong and I'll waste all the time getting too far out in front on this one. And so I think in late June we'll be able to predict more accurately what fall will look like. And Dr. Bodner the other day said it very well in our Friday public health meeting, and she talked about summer, and it does have a benefit. Heavier, humid air, less transmission, numbers will go down. And the other one, she really says it well about immunizations. She says, the truth is we want to turn COVID-19 into the common cold. And the way do we do that is we vaccinate, because that'll reduce the symptoms and the passing on the dangers of the other. Will we still have it in the future? We've had COVID illnesses for decades. And she believes that's what's going to allow us to go back to school without all the safety protocols. So I think we are heading back to the right direction. I think everyone's society is ready for that. I think we're heading into a very nice summer, much better summer we've ever had. Full prediction I'm not going to make, Brad, and we'll get there on that. So, and I know parents are anxious, and the sooner we can get that out, the better. But even we were the first to the street with a back-to-school learning plan last summer. Penny and her team, we were working 70, 80, 90 hours putting that plan together, and if we could do it again, Penny, I think we would have slowed down, because I think some things changed on us doing that too. And so sometimes I think Penny was the girl with the A++ shining star in the class. And so we try to excel, and when maybe we should just take a step back and kind of wait a little bit to make sure what the picture is going to look like. So yeah, I think we're going to be okay though. I think we're coming back, not where we were previous to COVID, but we're coming back in a much better space. So.
Can we ask Dr. Bodner or Fred to return, or Dr. Bodner to come for the June 7th or the 21st to?
Yeah.
Because something will change by then as well.
Yeah.
But I'd like to hear from them on how they feel moving forward, that what's going to be our responsibility and theirs.
Yeah, that June 27th would be a good one. They might give you a little bit accurate thing, but they're not probably going to guess in on school completely, because they're going to wait from state guidance. But they'll talk about numbers, where we're heading, and all those pieces of it. Sure, I can ask them to come back. You asked about the turf project, and Brian may jump in here a little bit on the finances, but they've done very well. It's quite impressive, really. Yes, they did have some foundations. We got Kim in the room that assisted, but they did have lots and lots of small individual donors. So it's quite kind of impressive how many they did get. So the turf money was ballparkish 1.1 million. They got a little over 500,000, I think, committed. 400 and some of it collected right now. And so we had Bart Mellis tell us their most recent bids on lighting and scoreboard. We know because of the community stadium price, but they didn't have the stanchion in there. So we know they got enough money for their lighting and their scoreboard. And so design, we could see it a month or two ago that they were getting there. And so French is designing all of that, and it'll go to bid. Brian, do you remember? Potentially next few weeks or next?
That's correct. We're hoping to bring it to the second June Board of Education meeting for approval, if all goes well.
So installation, scoreboard probably get installed for the lights, but the lighting, it'll be early fall is what it appears to be when they'll get all that in there. So they did well. I mentioned read by grade 3 too in the Friday letter. So that's a little bit of a hot mess as well. So the legislator hasn't budged at all on retention. The ask has been, this is the year retention kicks in, and that to relook at that, particularly when they did not require M-STEP for other students. And so you have students who didn't take the M-STEP to get the data, but they appear to be right down to the wire, and retention will be required. In fact, letters will be heading to parents at the end of this month. And so we've tried to get ahead of that, and we issued hey, parents, look out for this letter. It could affect your child. It appears by looking at the data slowly trickling from M-STEP that we're going to be in pretty good shape. The number of retentions would be small. You do get go ahead, Penny, help me with what we call that
good cause exemption.
Good cause exemption. And there's a process where a teacher, parent, student could ask for the good cause exemption. They would come to Penny or I at our level, and we'd take a look at it. The thought throughout the state is good cause exemptions are going to be common this year, because it just is not a good year for retention of students. So I just want to keep your eye on that, because that could catch some parents by shock, and we've tried to warn them it's coming, and it could reverse very quickly in the last week, that they maybe change their mind, but I don't think they're going to blink on this one. They're going to require retention. So not a very popular issue right now. And the other one I did mention earlier was the timeline on the refunding of the bonds, and we'll solidify that now you've passed the ratification and state budget's coming in, and Brian's trying to put together a June 7 budget for you that we have 3 different, pretty widely different plans to work off of. And so he'll do his very best, again, to give you a budget, but we are obviously heir to the wrong, because we would rather be better off than we're going to come. And so enrollment will show a little bit of a horror story on enrollment, will show a little bit of a horror story potentially on budget. But we're going to take the middle road, I think, on the dollar amount. So you have the House, the governors, and the Senate. And I think the Senate's in the middle. And so we will bring that budget to you. They are using the 1X again, and so we'll get half of what other districts get going forward. So but it's all a race to the finish. Friday is the revenue consensus for the state. The next round, you may see movement after Friday. And the rumor out of Lansing is they'll get us a budget before the July 4th holiday. They did. That's better than they did last year. We haven't seen that occur since Governor Snyder was in office. So, but that's all I have for you.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we stand adjourned.